Emirates First Class is potentially the most famous experience in the skies. It's been covered by just about everyone and desired by the lot. The main problem? It's like $5,000 if you want to experience that. A couple years ago, I flew Emirates First Class for the first time after years of saving up credit card points and redeeming them on a 16-hour flight to San Francisco. That was the only way I could get the experience, and I haven't been back since. So what if you don't have $5,000 and you can't save up credit card points for years to make it happen? If that's the case, do I have the deal for you? Welcome to Hong Kong. Today we're flying Emirates' fifth Freedom route from Hong Kong to Bangkok, a 3-hour journey in Emirates First Class and the cheapest way for you to experience the world-renowned product. I mean, you can find this experience for less than $1,000 on most days. Sure, it's a super short version of the Emirates First Class, but it's still a great way to get the experience. Emirates typically offers a chauffeur service for first and business class passengers, but considering I was staying right next to the airport, the train was perfect. Hong Kong still rocks the single terminal and remains one of the world's most connected airports, so the check-in area is huge. Emirates and United shared this one row where check-in opened 3 hours before departure and the queues were long, except for first class, where there wasn't a single person in line, so that only took a minute. But Hong Kong doesn't have fast-track security or immigration, so the wait for security and immigration took about 15 minutes. But then, into the terminal. I don't want to spend too much time discussing this, but it is a great terminal with amazing lounges, especially the Cathay Pacific lounges, all of which I covered earlier this year when I flew Cathay to San Francisco to experience New Year's Eve twice in one day, which you should check out. At the end of the main concourse, it splits in two, and across from Gate 40 is the Emirates Lounge. This lounge was closed for quite a while for renovations but reopened last year. With over 130 seats, it's a great space for the 3 daily Emirates flights from Hong Kong. The lounge is the same for first and business class and is essentially one big seating area. Not a ton of privacy. There is ramp views, but since it's removed from the window, it's not perfect. There's some slightly more private areas off to the side of the lounge, but the seating's basically the same. And then there's the buffet area. I knew I was bound to have great food on board, so I didn't want to eat too much in the lounge, but dang, this food looked good. I wanted a little bit of everything, and ended up with more than I bargained for. Then there's the restrooms. Typically, I wouldn't care about these, but these restrooms are nice, and they have big shower suites. Honestly, not bad for an outstation lounge. So why is there an Emirates Lounge in Hong Kong? Well, there's also Emirates Lounges in San Francisco, Los Angeles, London, Johannesburg. 31 different cities outside of Dubai have an Emirates Lounge. That's unheard of. Delta has them beat in total lounges by 1, but they're concentrated in their multiple hubs and some domestic locations. But I guess that's what you get when you're known for your premium services, but aren't in any major alliance. With the sun completely set, it was time for boarding. Gate 60 was ours, and considering this is a fifth Freedom flight, we had people flying just from Hong Kong to Bangkok, and others continuing on to Dubai on the same flight. They don't even have to get off in Bangkok. Our aircraft today is one of Emirates' A380s. After all, they are the biggest carrier of the type. This one is 9 years old and sees mostly European flights. Just like check-in, the boarding queues were nuts, except for first class, where I was the second in line. I always like boarding upper decks considering the angle the jet bridge is at. Most jet bridges are level or sloped down, but these ones require the uphill hike. They check boarding passes at the door, and if you're in first class, they get one of the flight attendants to escort you to your seat and show you around. In a 1-2-1 setup, this cabin is beginning to show its age. They've got their new 777 first class and slightly refreshed some A380s, but this is still the standard. But considering it's only my second time in Emirates first class, I still felt like a kid in a candy shop, regardless of the age of the cabin design. Seat 4K was mine, as it's a seat with the best view of those double engines, although the proximity to the galley kinda sucks. The seat is super wide and extremely comfortable, and the suite walls are super high to add to that privacy. There's the armrest with the seemingly useless cubby, and the seat control shortcuts and door controls in front. There's the ginormous TV in front, along with the giant counter, which hides some bonus amenities in the mirror, a notebook and pen, and charging port on the front ledge. Under the counter is the bag storage. You'll notice that there's no overhead bin, so you can tuck your bags back here, and then there's straps to lock it in place. Plenty of space for your rollerboard and backpack. There's at least 2 windows per seat with 2 window shades. One filters the light, the other is a full blackout. Then is the side counter with a few compartments. First is a huge storage cubby, just big enough to lose things in. Then is the mini bar, which is great for keeping yourself refreshed, especially on the longer flights. Then the tray table, which of course is huge. There's a USB port down here and then an iPad-type tablet. This serves as the control for the seat, TV, lights, window shades, everything. And then there's another small cubby. This one actually is fairly useful as it's right next to you. And then they tuck the bedding in the back corner here. One of the best things about first class is the amenities. So what do you get on this 3-hour journey? For starters, there are availability limitations considering it's only catered for the short segment. So no lemon mint, but I did get the 2015 Dom Perignon. There's the notebook and pen that you can keep, and then the noise-canceling headphones. Perhaps the most comfortable out there. They had all the normal items, but some of them were upon request only due to the short length of the flight. I took the slippers and eye mask, but opted out of the PJs. I did opt in to the amenity kit. Emirates' first class amenity kit may be my favorite one. Unfortunately, on this short flight they only give the business class amenity kits. Not to discredit it, as there's still a large Bulgari bag with great amenities, especially that pouch with some high quality Bulgari products. And that's on top of the amenities in the countertop compartment. We got a very hot towel after that, and the signature Arabic coffee and our date with orange or walnuts to wrap it up. First class is dying, and a lot of carriers' first class is barely better than business class. TAG's first class, for example, was a disaster, but still twice the cost of business. There are some carriers, however, that have a first class that is noticeably better than business, and Emirates is in that group. But it doesn't come easy, it is expensive. The main reason I took this flight is because I was reminiscing on my only ever Emirates first class journey, and this was the most affordable way to get back there. If I wanted to do the full flight round trip, however, all the way to Dubai and not just the Fifth Freedom segment, I'd be paying roughly $9,000, which is roughly $7,000 more than the business class fare. So if you can't pay that fare but want to experience first class, how else can you accomplish that? Upgrading is the best way to go about that, and there's 2 ways to upgrade. The easiest way is just to buy the upgrade online. Go to the Manage Booking page and it will list the price to upgrade, although you have to be in business class as you can only upgrade up 1 class of service. But this is typically cheaper than just buying the ticket straight up. Alternatively, you can upgrade with points. Emirates Frequent Flyer program is weak since you pretty much only earn and spend points with Emirates, whereas most airlines have alliance partners that are easy to book with. But if you're a frequent Emirates customer, you can build up points. Although unless you're in a premium cabin on a long-haul route, you'll probably only get about 5,000 points per flight, and long-haul first-class flights can be over 150,000 points, so minimum 30 flights could get you the points you need. They do have good partners you can transfer points from still. When I flew first-class Emirates, I've spent 155,000 Capital One points into my Emirates account from Capital One to book that 16-hour flight to San Francisco. Once you have the points, there's 2 ways to upgrade. First, you can join the waitlist, which you can do online, and if an upgradable seat becomes available, they'll start at the top of the list and work down. Or you can upgrade at the airport. If seats are available, you can book an instant upgrade at check-in or at the gate for typically around 40 to 50,000 points from business to first. If you're planning to take the upgrade route, pick your travel route strategically. If you can, find the off-peak season for your routes and then find the least busy days of the week, but be cautious that it only works if space is available, and their planes only have 6 to 14 first-class seats depending on the aircraft and route. It can take time and patience, but you won't get it every time. Other than just buying first-class seats, however, this could be your best chance of experiencing the first-class ride. The first class menu is like a whole book. Funnily enough, considering how short the flight is, the menu is just about one page, and the rest is just information about the food. The wines, the caviar, the stories behind it all. The nice thing about first class is that it's entirely a la carte. You can order whatever, whenever, up until an hour and a half before landing, which gave us 50 minutes from takeoff to the kitchen being closed, and the crew worked their asses off to make it happen. Honestly, a major hats off to the amazing crew of this flight. While they prepped our ordered dishes, they brought around the beverage choice we ordered, and I got the Emirates signature tea, which is a very soothing black tea. I had to start with their signature caviar service. I only eat caviar in first class at this point, so at this point caviar tastes like a great airplane seat. They actually offered me seconds of caviar as it's unlimited, and while it was tempting, I had to get as much food down in the next 30 minutes as possible. So next up was the Arabic meze platter, a must for me when I fly the Gulf carriers. I still think that Saudia served the best one, but this one ain't bad. Just too many sides for the amount of bread. They offered more, but I didn't want to load up on carbs with 3 more dishes coming, because I then got the salmon appetizer topped with pickled cucumber, capers, and lemon vinaigrette. The main course I chose was the Peking duck. My standards for the duck are sky high with the stuff I've got in San Francisco back home, but Emirates was dang good. The spring pancakes were kinda tough, but the duck itself was excellent, and it's hard to mess up hoisin sauce. At this point, I was stuffed, but in for a penny, in for a pound, so I had to get some form of dessert, and I ended up with just the fruit platter instead of all the cakes and tarts. By the time I finished eating, we were already on descent into Bangkok. I did get a chance to use the restroom, which is one of the biggest in the skies. It's got a whole bench to sit on, a large toilet, and a sink about 5 times the size of a regular airplane sink. Plus, the towels instead of paper towels is a small but noticeable difference. There's also extra amenities and TV in here. It's definitely the best lavatory I've seen in the sky. This is the space that Etihad fits the resident's 3-room suite into, but Emirates uses it to make these giant lavatories on either side. And that's not even mentioning the shower. On this flight, since it was short, they didn't activate the shower, but check out my previous Emirates video if you're curious about what's provided for that. There's a grand staircase between the lavatories to go between the 2 levels of the aircraft, but they didn't stock the bar at the top just due to the flight length. I also didn't actually set up the bed since it was time for landing, but that's something else I covered in my last Emirates video. Genuinely the comfiest bed I've had besides the residence. I did at least get to close the doors, and it's incredible how cozy this space feels once that's shut. Plus, once the lights are dimmed, it's made better by the fake starry sky on the ceiling and the embedded lights in the carpet. By the way, one of my favorite perks about Emirates is that they offer free Polaroids. Doesn't matter what cabin you're in, the crew offers to take these as a fun keepsake to remember your flight by. I'm not going to cover Emirates' in-flight entertainment system, known famously as ICE, since we've covered it multiple times in the past, but it genuinely may be the best in-flight entertainment system out there. And in first class, you have 3 screens between the TV, tablet, and remote, and each can have a unique thing playing. Plus, by logging into the internet portal, you can access free full-flight Wi-Fi. Missing from the video, but not forgotten, is the bar on board. I covered this in my Emirates business class video last year, but it's a great space, and according to the crew, this is the flight that they serve the most alcohol. The 5th freedom of aviation sounds boring, but it's how you get an African airplane flying regionally in East Asia. It allows a carrier to fly between 2 countries that are not its own as long as it's a continuation of a flight from its home country, but they can sell tickets for all segments. Think of it like a bus. The plane's going to start in Dubai and make a few stops, and you can get a ticket to whichever stop you want. This has some perks for passengers, however. For starters, it can offer cheaper fares. Since it's a continuation of an existing flight, the fares are lower. For example, the Dubai to New York flight on Emirates is roughly double Emirates' Milan to New York flight that is a continuation of Emirates' Dubai to Milan service. Typically, non-stop flights are more expensive, but this is an exception since it's not a connecting flight, it's a continuing flight. And that's not even mentioning that mileage redemptions are much lower as well. The other perk of 5th Freedom routes is that it offers passengers extra comfort. Look at Sao Paulo to Buenos Aires, for example. This is a route operated multiple times daily with local narrow-body aircraft, Or you can fly Swiss, Ethiopian, British, Turkish, or Air Canada on a wide body. So you can get an extra spacious cabin, extra lavatories, and lie-flat seats if you're in business. These flights also offer a great way to try new airlines. You could fly Bangkok to Guangzhou on a China Southern A320, or you could fly that route on a Kenya Airways 787. Getting to Kenya is much tougher than getting to Thailand, so this is the easiest way for a lot of people to try out Kenya Airways. In a similar trend, you can use these routes to try out services that would typically cost much more. Looking at Singapore Airlines, they have a Fifth Freedom route from Frankfurt to New York, which still sports their regular premium perks, but for a fraction of the cost compared to starting the journey in Singapore. The flight we're on right now is actually a perfect example of this exact idea. The last perk is that if you do the continuing segment, it saves you from needing to deal with a layover. I recently flew on the Fifth Freedom flight from New York to Abidjan, continuing to Addis Ababa. Upon arrival to Abidjan, the terminating passengers deplaned, but we stayed comfy in our seats for the next batch of passengers and then continued on. This means no need for a visa, no need to get all your stuff off and back on the airplane, no extra security checks or airport stress, plus you get a couple bonus hours in the seat. Currently, Emirates operates 16 Fifth Freedom flights. Most are connecting to smaller markets where they couldn't fill the plane, like Christchurch, Harare, and Dakar. But some routes are just lucrative markets that Emirates wants a piece of the pie on, like Milan, New York, or Hong Kong, Bangkok. Some carriers use Fifth Freedoms because they can't reach the main destinations nonstop, but Emirates' fleet can reach all the destinations. It's just a capacity issue in most cases. Since Emirates has an all-wide-body fleet, they can't fill a plane to Conakry and Dakar, so they run the plane through Conakry to Dakar, and have the rights to sell tickets just between Guinea and Senegal as well as the full journey. I know it was only a 2.5-hour flight, but considering it was my only second time in this cabin and the first in 2 years, I absolutely loved the experience. Not gonna lie, however, kinda feel like I paid $800 for a nice dinner. But $800 for Emirates First Class? That's insane. I mean, sure, it's a limited experience, but you get the crash course, and for most people, this may be the most attainable way to get in this cabin. If you haven't seen it, I'd encourage you to watch my Emirates First Class video from Dubai to San Francisco, as that was the full and true experience that they strive for. Comparing it to that, however, we got all the same amenities even if I opted out of a couple of them. We still got the A+ dining even if it's just the single meal. We still had access to the Emirates Lounge even if it's one of their outstation lounges. We still had the closed-door suite even if the doors could only be shut for about an hour. We still had those giant lavatories even if we couldn't take a shower. I guess the main thing is that if this was the only Emirates First Class experience you ever had, I still feel like you'd get off considering it a win. It's still one of the best experiences out there, just truncated. Plus, for under $1,000, you'll struggle to find anything close to this service level. I mean, business class from San Francisco to New York can run you almost $2,000, and you get like 10% of the perks we got on this flight. Now sure, if you've got a ton of credit card points and patience, or an extra few $1,000s, you can hop on one of their 10+ hour flights in this cabin. But if you're a bit more cost conscious and still want to cross this off your bucket list, I can't recommend this flight enough. What do you think though? Is the flight worth it, or would you stick with one of the business classes on this route? Let me know below, and until next time, safe travels. I'll see y'all next Sunday.